Greetings and salutations to all of you. Thank you for tuning into my channel for today. One of the things that I really enjoy is elocution. I love doing public speaking. I do a little acting on the side and performing in that type of thing. And so spoken word, I think, is really some of the most fascinating and elegant way of communicating. So one of the things that I definitely want to do is share with you some of the great speeches in history that I've heard of. And some of them I'm sure that you've heard of too as well. But I really want to take you on a bit of a journey and just show you the contrasts of what that's like. So the first two that I'm going to do, I'm going to do a snippet from one of the great elocutors of his time, 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. And I'm going to contrast that with one of his peers, another great speech maker of that time as well, Frederick Douglass. And so there's going to be a counterpoint. First one is going to be the perspective of the president, because he was a president, so we'll give him that due. And we'll talk about how he saw things, and we'll draw some conclusions from what he said, right? And then we're going to contrast that with Frederick Douglass and what he was saying in the same era. The Gettysburg Address, President Abraham Lincoln, November 1863. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We are now engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Gives me chills when he says it, man. Outstanding. I mean, the concept, the points that he's trying to make. 1863, so it's at that time, 87, just 87 years since the Declaration of Independence and formation of the country. Abraham Lincoln was willing to put his life on the line and ultimately did, having been assassinated for believing in what he said. Interesting. But then you contrast that with July 4th, 1876, and a man of the same era, Frederick Douglass. Now, what were his thoughts generally at that time, especially in 1876, 100 years after the birth of the United States? What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty, heartless. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. Go search where you will. Roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world. Travel through South America. Search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of everyday practices in this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival. What do you think? The 19th century perspectives of both Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States, and the great Frederick Douglass, a man of the same era, speaking of the same times, of the same nation. Oh, by the way, I am the Prince of Positivity. And for now,